I'm here with Annie Hyman Pratt. So Annie is a dear friend of mine, someone I've known for a decade now. She joined my mastermind, I'm pretty sure it was 2012, and she quickly became the go-to expert on team building and on leadership within my community, really. And Annie, I see you've got I know you've got this book coming out. I read it. I think I've gave you a blurb for it, and it's right behind you. It's called The People Part. But Annie, could you just by way of introduction tell us a little bit about how you became, how you got all this wisdom and how you became this person, our go-to person, not only for me and for my team, but really for everyone in my mastermind and so many people within this industry.
Yeah. Oh gosh. Yeah. Thank you for having me. Yeah. My business journey started in a family business, and I think I've always been interested in business, even as a kid sitting around the dinner table. My family started the Coffee Bean and Tea Leaf, which I think probably many of your audience will know. And when I came into the family business in my 20s, my early 20s, we were kind of a small mom and pop. We had 7 stores. And during the 90s, during that decade, the whole coffee industry expanded and we expanded huge. So while I was operating the business, we grew much more than 10 times, went from 7 stores to 70 stores. And during that time, I had, oh my gosh, so many learnings. Probably the biggest learning for me was, how do I do the people part, right? And we ended up selling the business at the very end of the 90s. And after that, I worked in a lot of different businesses as a consultant and interim executive. And I found, while all the businesses were very different in what they, in their business model and what they did, the people part was pretty similar across the board. And so I started, even though my background is in finance and accounting and operations, I began turning my attention. I've always been a closet anthropologist, always interested in psychology. And I turned my attention more and more to that, and found that, really getting the people part right is the big exponential game changer in a business. It's not, getting a perfect system or process, not even getting perfect goals. If you can really up-level the people part, you've got what you need to do all the rest. Yeah.
So Annie, so for everyone, Annie, I'm just going to get a little personal here and tell. So I have this mastermind, and Annie joins the mastermind, and I think in our second meeting, it was our second meeting, and everyone's interested in team and growing team and how you grow a team and how you lead a team and how you have a great team. And so I knew Annie had some expertise in that. So I asked Annie to give a presentation in front of our room. And this is a very intense room. There's in the mastermind, there's 50 people, and they're all have 7, 8, 9-figure businesses. They're all type A, charging forward. Annie gets up and starts to talk about team. And it's an informal presentation. She's just got a flip chart and she's drawing stuff. And as I'm watching Annie, and Annie's heard this story before many times, but as I was watching Annie give this presentation, I had this out-of-body experience. It felt like I was starting to float up towards the ceiling, and this voice in my head was like, Annie's the CEO I've been looking for. I got to have Annie as my CEO. I'm going to have Annie as my CEO. Just like, I don't know where it came from. It's just this feeling, just like, and it was like I was floating above my body with this crazy sensation. Well, over the next year or so, I repeatedly tried to hire Annie as my CEO, and she repeatedly said no to me, and because she had bigger fish to fry. And so what Annie ended up doing was creating a business where she coaches many of the top people in our industry, including me. We had a very extensive engagement where Annie worked very, very closely with my team for I don't know, a couple of years, I think, year and a half, 2 years, and really had a huge impact on the team I have and the way we grew our team. But then she did that within the industry with many of the top people in the industry. And she also created a program, and this was actually created within our mastermind, like literally because we were all her first clients, because we were around Annie and got her brilliance and her wisdom. And so Annie created a program she calls KBL, which is coaching for your key leaders. So if you're an entrepreneur, if you have a team, this would be a program where you send your key leaders into the KBL program. So if you're watching this video and you're part of this industry, this information, what I call the wisdom business, and you're following me or you're following many of the other leaders, you might not know it, but you have experienced Annie's work and Annie's wisdom, because many, I can't say most, but a large number of the absolute top businesses in this industry all have Annie as their coach for growing teams. And so that's why we ended up here. So Annie, what's one of the, just before we hit the record button, one of the things we talked about was back in 2012, which I think was when you joined the mastermind, and top leaders in the industry, but we all still had like one assistant or two assistants. Maybe we had 3 or 4 people on the team. Yes. But that's been a big evolution just in this last decade. Can you talk a little bit about that, about how the growth you've seen?
Yeah. Oh my gosh. So yes. So when I joined the mastermind, these entrepreneurial businesses were still truly mostly operated by, run by the entrepreneur. Lots of them were still even if they'd been in business for a few years, maybe half a dozen years for some of them, that was kind of a longer time or whatnot, that they were still in the sort of startup stage, right? In the stage where they were still doing a lot of the actual work with customers. They were still doing customer service. They were still talking to all of their contractors, right? They were doing the tech. They were doing the design. They were doing everything, the finances. And if they were, even when they had help, they were still in charge of the responsibility, right? So even though they had somebody that could do some tasks, these entrepreneurs couldn't get it off their brain. And that's one of the big things about growing a business and growing a team, getting people that can actually take over some of those real responsibilities so that entrepreneurs can have what they really want, which is to do the things they love in their business. That's why they created the business. And to do the strategic parts, the innovative parts, to kind of think about the future and work on that part. And so so when I came into the mastermind, there was a lot of entrepreneurs who weren't sure how to do that. Like, how do I grow my business and not get stuck in my business? And that is, that's a super common thing. And to get out of that, to avoid that from happening, you've got to be developing team and developing leaders within your team. And so that's the journey that I've been on with so many of these entrepreneurs. And they might have started with 2 internal people and, 3 half-time or quarter-time contractors, something like that. And now some of these teams have, 30, 50, 70 people on them today. So, yeah.
And so what is it? Talk a little bit about the maybe unique challenges of someone who maybe has something to share with the world, who has an expertise, and they've been the one person, or maybe they've had a VA, and but no, they didn't sign up to become a business leader. They had something to share with the world. They had some skill in sharing it. They built them an audience, and all of a sudden they're in business. And now you've hired a few people, and all of a sudden you're having to manage them or lead them. Can you talk a bit about some of the unique challenges there? And
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. I think about it as these entrepreneurs, these experts, they have the thing that they're the expert in, kind of like a sport, right? So some might play basketball, some might do tennis, some might do football, whatnot. Okay. But all of them have to learn the business part. So they know their expert part, but they actually have to learn some of the business part, kind of like being an athlete in sports. So when you choose a sport, you're going to have to learn that sport, but you're also going to have to be in really good shape. You're going to have good endurance, right? You're going to have to be able to work through challenges. You're going to have to be able to stick with it, even when it's getting difficult. And some of those things I have realized as an entrepreneur, we don't learn. Like you don't learn that in business school. You don't learn it in any school. Then that true endurance part, the true part of like how you show up under stress, under challenge with people. And that piece, I think, is so central to being able to succeed in the long term in business. And it's, I think most people think of that as either like you're a natural leader and you got it, you're good with people. In fact, the reason I called this book The People Part is because I had so many entrepreneurs say, I'm great at all the business parts, but I'm terrible at the people part. And it's like, that's learnable. It's absolutely learnable. And it's based on really kind of understanding us as humans, how we really work. And to know that we have an emotional part that we have to learn how to, work with, how to regulate better so that we can step up and run a whole marathon instead of just a sprint and then needing to sit down, which is, where I would be if I was trying to run a marathon. But yeah, but business is, it has a business part. And it is learnable. And some entrepreneurs that are listening to this and leaders too, they might be thinking, yeah, but I just want to hire all the people that know that part. Like, I don't want to deal with that part at all. And and what I would say is you can hire people for a lot of it. Okay. But you cannot be a sports champion without being a good athlete. Like, we'd still need you decent, pretty good with the people part, because business is still a sport of having a lot of people. The robots are not good enough yet. They're just not. We're still working on self-driving cars. There are no robots that can do the kind of decision making that can actually talk to a customer, an upset customer, work them through their issues. We still don't have a robot that could do that. And so, if you're ambitious and you want to grow your business, you need to be working with people. And then we just got to get you good at that part, which is what the book is all about.
Right. So the idea of leadership as a learnable skill is something that I'm not sure that I believe that at one point in my life. Yeah. Can you talk about how someone can become a better leader, how they can learn to be a leader?
Yes. So one of the very first parts, again, it's maybe a little counterintuitive, but I need to spend just a couple seconds on understanding how our human brains work. So we have this part in our amygdala, and it's all about threat detecting. And it puts us into an emotional state, more like fight or flight or freeze or please. And all of that is great if we had like a tiger chasing us. Okay. But in today's day and age, we don't need to have our threat detection on high alert all the time. Okay. But we can't turn it off. So we need to learn how to regulate it so that we can experience some emotion, but not have it overtake us and run our behavior. And then when we learn how to regulate that, we can spend our time in our frontal lobe, in our executive function, in the part that has all the amazing creativity, that is able to, create a business, that is able to connect with customers, connect with your team. And so one of the very first things for learning leadership is learning that self-leadership, is learning the part of how to regulate your own emotions so you can really work well with them. And that's, again, we tend to think of it as like, well, you learn that in kindergarten or something. And it's like, well, no, you learn it your whole life. Again, it's like being an athlete. If for business, you need to be kind of a business marathon runner. And so it is absolutely learnable. You can train for it. It gets easier and easier. And that's the piece that once you can regulate your own emotions, now you can really connect with other people. Because when you're in your emotional triggers, you are turned inward. You're all about you. It's just like, how am I? How am I now? Am I getting disrespected? Am I in danger here? Is this person thinking poorly of me? Do I need to end this meeting right now? Like when we're thinking those thoughts, we are not thinking about the business any longer, and definitely not about the people in front of us. Mm-hmm. That's like the first thing about leadership is our self-leadership.
And so as someone is starting to grow a team, I think when we first met, my team was probably about 6 people.
Yeah.
And now we're about 40 people and growing.
Yeah.
Yeah. When I think about the changes, it's just so radical. So if someone's just starting on this journey and they think, I remember in business school, I had a management class.
Yeah.
And like I was trying to one of the profs was asking a question about trying to get stuff done. And he sort of got this people part, but I didn't because I was 20 years old at the time. And I'm like, well, if you have someone working for you, just tell them to do this and go do that. And I think that is what a lot of people think is how business or teams work, is just go do this, do that. But you do have to take care of the people part.
You do. And you have to understand a few things about it. So like delegation, which is one of the first parts of when you get people in a business. Yes, you need to tell them, essentially what to do. Okay. But you want to be telling them in a way or communicating with them in a way that they want to do it, that they feel good about contributing to this business, that they don't feel like they're automatically being perceived as some, little grunt worker in the business or something. Nobody wants that. And so to be a leader that actually empowers people, and I know that's kind of a word that doesn't, it has a different meaning for everybody. But when I think of empowerment, it's like we have a meeting of the minds. We have 2 partners who are going to work on getting an outcome for the business, getting something to happen for the business. And they're partners. So we need partners to treat each other really well, to know that I'm going to ask you to do this and I'm looking for a good agreement. I want to support you. It's, if I'm thinking I just delegate it and you do it or you're fired or something, that just doesn't work. So we need to know, hey, this person needs to understand what I'm really thinking should happen here, like be really clear about the outcome. And they've got to be interested in the other person's success and treat them as if they're setting them up for success. So I think it's, it's all about that. And again, the best people want to be viewed and perceived, worked with as partners. It doesn't mean that they have to own part of the business. It means at the, at the level that you're getting things done, they have a real part, respected, appreciated part.
Yeah, especially in this industry,
Yeah.
my industry, our industry, we're not paying someone to flip burgers. Not that there's anything wrong with flipping burgers and have a minimum wage, but we're working with knowledge workers.
Yes.
Very, the skill level is very high.
Yes.
And the stakes are very high.
Yes.
And they want to be valued, and they need to be valued. And can you just talk about, I guess, sort of like what it's like in this industry to be how do you attract the talent? How do you retain talent?
Yes. Yes. First of all, the point of that people are here are working with knowledge workers, that can't be overstated. It's knowledge workers. What we mean by that is like, we need people's thinking. Okay. Now, I love systems and process, and every business needs a good amount of systems and process. But that systems and process is to help people do the repeatable stuff, like if they were flipping a burger, okay, the repeatable stuff. But the thing that why we want that in the repeatable stuff is so that we have this person's thinking for the important parts, for the problem solving, for looking at a thing that they just worked on to see how it turned out and see, oh no, that didn't go as planned. I need to do something different. I need to figure out, work with other people, get to the outcome. And for that, we need people's thinking. Okay. So if we need people's thinking, we need to provide an environment that they can think well. And that environment is the responsibility of the entrepreneur, right? As that's the thing that they can do, is create an environment that does set up people for success so that they can really thrive. They don't have to watch their own back. They can trust that this business cares about them, that it wants them to succeed, and is going to give them what they need to succeed so that they can really focus on that part. And that I think is the best way to attract the great people. And by the way, when really strong people are working with you and they're happy with where they work, they know other strong people. You start to get a reputation as the place that the high performers want to work. And high performers have a lot of choice. So they want to be real contributors. They want to be really appreciated. And they have to have the opportunity to think, to make decisions, right? To take some small risks, to learn. And that means we need an entrepreneur who can, set teams up for success so that they can stand back. And that they can stand back without the fear of my whole team may crash my company if I stand back. It's like, no. There's ways to set that up. There are some systems and process to make sure that doesn't happen.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
So can you talk a little bit about your book and why this is different from other leadership books or management books?
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. Well, first of all, over my career, which is decades now, I've had people ask me, what leadership book should I get, right? What management book should I get? What business book should I get for entrepreneurs? What do you recommend? And I never had a book that I would recommend. It was more like, well, this few chapters of this book and a few things from this other book, but be careful when you read this book because I don't want you to follow this one part. It's like nothing was that great a fit. And most of the books were really talking about systems, process, strategy. And for the people part, they were really talking about roles, not people performance, not like, what do you do when somebody is, you're delegating, you're doing a good job delegating, and they can't seem to get the job done. Like, how do you handle that? And so So I really concentrated on writing a book that was all about this human part. How do you work with humans in a business? What do they really need? And this book, I've organized it into 7 agreements. I think of it that way because, again, we want to work in a company where people have the enough autonomy that they have a say in what they commit to, and you want them to have a say so that they could really produce it. So yeah, so I wrote this book to help entrepreneurs, all entrepreneurs, all leaders who really want to understand the foundations of how to work with people in a business.
Mhm.
Yeah.
And so who's the perfect person for this book?
Okay. Yeah. So first of all, any entrepreneur on the planet, any business leader on the planet, if you are working with people to get results, because business is a game of results, right? Is a game of achieving goals. So if you are, a business working with people to get results, and you want to be better, you want to grow, or you want to get better, or even if you want a better experience of your business, then this absolutely is a book for you. Because this is, it's like I want entrepreneurs to get more results and leaders to get more results. And one of the things I know is that they will get so much better results if they have a better experience in their business. It's like I want them to come away from this book having a lot of optimism that they could love being a leader and not be in the place of like, I don't like the people part. No, I want you to love the people part. I want you to look forward to talking with your team about, how the project's going, what you guys are planning for, next quarter, how you guys see the future of the business. Yeah.
There was, I don't think I've ever told you this, but there was a sort of a leader in this industry before me, or a teacher, a trainer, maybe not a leader, but a very smart marketer. And I learned a lot of marketing from him. But one of the things he said is, he would go on and on how he hated having employees, how it just made his life a living hell. And, never had more than 2 people working for you because it's just, you can't trust them. And this was early on, like for me in the 90s when I was first starting out. And those words made a big impact on me. And so we had a $4 million business when it was just Mary and myself and one person. And it was just chaos. No one was sleeping. It was hard. It was hard. And gradually, but I still had this inner dialogue of, it's just, it'll make your life a living hell. A team will. And Annie, as you know, it's been a long road for me. And I don't consider myself a natural leader, at least for my team. I think I do a pretty good job in the industry, but not for my team. But so it's been a long path for me, but an incredibly rewarding one. And now I've got this team that I'm just so, they inspire me. They inspire me as much as my clients do.
Yes.
And so it's been an amazing journey. What would you say to those people that are just intimidated about they're worried that just going, that they can't trust people, or it's going to be hard, or it's going to make their life a living hell?
Yeah.
What would you say?
Yeah. I guess the biggest thing I would say is, how would I say? It's like, you don't need to have perfect trust, but instead what we want is for you to keep taking small steps, ones that you can handle, to verify that this is going to work, because it is going to work. It's now, I have worked with, oh my gosh, probably more than 100 companies. I could rattle off dozens of them that now I've been with in a journey of going from a few $1,000,000 to, 10, 20, 50, and more. And so if you're intimidated, if you're feeling like, I don't know if this is ever going to be for me, I would say, suspend judgment a little bit, suspend that and try some really small pieces that I explain in the book.
Mm.
Just some small things to do differently. One of them is one of the very simple ones is when you feel that that urge come up to tell somebody that they did something wrong, to blame somebody, to kind of get upset and tell people why you're angry or something. When those feelings come up and you're with somebody, pause. Like, that's all. Just notice, before I am going to say this thing, let me just pause. Let me give myself a little bit of a break. I can always say it later. And that very small step of being able to pause and think just a little bit, walk around the block, take some deep breaths, regulate yourself just a little, and you will start to find, hey, wait a minute, this is kind of working. Like, I didn't have to follow my urge and say that thing right then, because you don't. But in our triggered state, in our survival state, we think we have to say it right then. So it's one of the very first things, just learning to pause. I swear, even if it's for 30 seconds, it will make a difference. Yeah.
Thank you, Annie. So for everyone watching, I highly recommend, one of the things we didn't talk about is, and Annie, I've said this to you before, that Annie brings, and the reason she's almost magical when it comes to creating great teams and working with great teams, is Annie's an accountant. She has an operations background, working with a large number of employees, running the coffee bean stores, expanding that out, being a CEO at 22 years old. But she also has the softer skills, where she studied psychology very, very deeply at a graduate level. So that's why she can combine how to work with people, but taking that and turning it into systems and turning it into checklists and turning it into various models that you can follow. So
yeah, that's my passion, is making the people part learnable. And that means we got to break it down a bit. We can't, it doesn't work to just say, for me to say to a leader, well, just empower your team. It's like, well, what the hell does that mean? Right? Honestly, what does it mean? Does it mean that I just come in and I say, you're empowered, make decisions? It's like, nobody believes that anyways. If you go into your team and you're like, today I've decided that you can make all the decisions, it's like, that won't even work. So let's talk about what will. And that is my real passion.
Yeah. And make it learnable and make it achievable and turn it into a process.
Yeah. And change your life with it.
Yeah.
Because that's ultimately what it does. Business can change your life, and in more ways than just giving you some money. It can make your life a lot better. Yeah.
Thank you, Annie.
Yeah. Thank you. Thank you so much for having me, Jeff.
You're welcome.